Listeners be advised. The Soliloquy podcast discuss matters related to the human experience and many that are sexual in nature. Due to this, some conversations may surround triggering topics such as sexual violence, self harm, abuse, and much more. Please be advised, a list of crisis and psychological resources will be available in the show notes of this episode. With that said, let's get started with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please as we go through the following safety instructions.
In the event that there is a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will drop from the overhead. Place the mask over your nose and mouth. Breathe normally as oxygen is flowing even if the mask is not inflated. Be sure to adjust your own mask before helping others.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soliloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. This is your favorite host, Vernon T. Scott, also known as Slaytor Jackson, and for you freaky motherfuckers out there, Sebastian Adams. Today's episode, we will be talking about mental health and relationships, y'all. Like, am I depressed? Am I going through some things that might be considered a traumatic incident? Am I obsessing over something? Do I have OCD? Do I have ADHD? Technically, I do. Uh, what kind of traumas is going on in my life? What is self-care? Like, this is what this episode is going to be about. Of course, not necessarily what I just said. It's going to be some other thing. But to join me in this conversation, I have Fortis on the line once more. Hello, good sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing well, doing well. So, as with this being the new season, and I like to make sure, at least on those first two episodes, that I have my guests on that they do introduce themselves so the audience will know who they are. Look, after this point, if y'all be like, "Who's this Fortis person?" Just go back to the older episodes, go back to last season, catch up. Look, we love to have you here. Join the Patreon where everything is like in categories. If the Patreon's still around, because I saw some things that was a little bit sketchy. If the Patreon's not around, the OnlyFans is going to be around. That's all I'm saying. But as of right now, join the Patreon. Everything is like so much more simplified. Like if you have a favorite person that you enjoy, like if you love Fortis a lot, you only want to listen to Fortis's content, there's a tag for all of his episodes. So there you go to make everything great for y'all. So Fortis, who the fuck are you?
Thank you so much. My name is Fortis, and I'm just basically here just to be here for support and just offer guidance to anybody who's in need of it.
Oh yes, you better support beam, y'all. I have no idea why I said support beam. That was so fucking lame. You know what? This episode is over. I'm going to go sit in a corner, grow mushrooms, and just be like, and be sad. And if you don't get that grow mushrooms, like I forgot the word. Damn. But if you don't know what that means you do not watch enough anime for me, and you need to do better. Do better. Get on my level. And to specifically highlight an anime that does the growing mushrooms very well, Ouran High School Host Club. There you go, Tamaki Senpai. Love it. Okay, sorry. I'm all off topic. Mental health and relationships. I'm back. So, Fortis, to start this conversation off, one of the things that we were talking about in the intake meeting is self-care within the relationship. What does self-care mean to you? What does that look like for you? And if you were to be in a relationship, will you still value self-care as much?
That's a very good question. To me, I perceive self-care as a way of maintaining your very essence that makes you you, that makes you part of the world. I think anything that complements your best attributes and also your worst attributes, because you have to embrace your shadow side. Because oftentimes your shadow side is what brings out the brightest light in you. So that's what a lot of people don't realize. So to
Yes.
me, I do feel like self-care is just a way of reconnecting with yourself and being with yourself through thick and thin. It's all about unconditional love, unconditional honor and everything like that. You have to honor and cherish yourself through thick and thin. That's
Mm.
how I see self care. It is all about yourself. It's time to be selfish. That's how I see it.
Ooh,
Because
child.
God didn't put you on this earth to serve anybody else. You have to serve yourself in order to help others.
Mm.
So be your true self. That's how I feel with self care.
See, child, I said this on another episode. Oh, child, I'm shaking because a word was just dropped. I need my fucking tambourine, Lord. I need to go ahead and buy that thing so I can start shaking that motherfucker. Oh, child, you trying to take us to church today? Hold up. And it is a Friday, Lord. The Lord said, does not matter what fucking day it is, I will come to you any hour, any minute, any second of the day. I am here with you. Oh my, oh God, Jesus. And yes, I said, I know I said motherfucking in the Lord in the same sentence. Y'all don't judge me, judge your daddy. I don't give a damn. Oh, I might be somebody's daddy. Jesus. Okay. Anyways, but yes, I love what you said there, and I agree with that 100%. You do have to serve yourself. You do have to be selfish at times because if you're not together, you cannot be there for anybody else. Like even from my own history of how I used to give so much of myself that I literally lost who I was. Like the imposter syndrome was way too strong.
Right,
But I also love that happened because I had to forget myself just to know how great I am. So that was one thing I am grateful for from that journey. But having that making time for myself, making sure that I reserve my time for me, and whenever I do give that time to other people, I still have ownership of that time frame because I
right,
can end anything whenever I want to end it and still feel comfortable with that and not beat myself up over it. And I think about when it, because within like relationships, because I had this conversation with some friends in the past who was like, I don't feel comfortable with being selfish in my relationships, and I'm like, but you need to be. Like,
hmm,
it's okay for you to be selfless with your partner, but if you're constantly being selfless for your partner, when are you going to make the time for yourself? And
right,
when is your partner going to step up to the plate for them to do things for themselves as well? Because they also have to be in a space where they have to refill themselves in order for them to give to you. But if they're constantly taking from you, then they don't see the need, they won't ever value you in the sense because you're providing them with the free energy here. Like they're not doing anything for you and you're still giving, 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 giving.
hmm,
So where's that? Where are you going to find your true value? Where are you going to find your true worth in that relationship if you don't take that time to just be like, you know what? I'm going to block my energy, conserve my energy until I want to provide that to you. And I want you to accept that. But on the same token, I do want to receive some from you too.
right. Exactly. That is the truth.
So,
You
mhm.
no, no, keep going. No, keep going.
So what are some of the things that you personally do for self-care practices?
So for self-care practices, I put a lot of emphasis on food.
Mm,
With diet, let me just say this. Diet cannot just only be limited to food. It can be to the music, to the TV shows, to anything that you put within yourself.
mm,
People got to realize like you are what you listen to, you are what you eat, you are what you breathe. So anything that you and you are what you speak. So
mm,
anything that you project onto the world is just a reflection of what's going on within you. So
mm,
you have to be careful of that. Be mindful. For me, I love writing. I love writing stories. I also do journal prompts. I like to write. I like to write. It helps me like reflect. It's my way of doing a level of reflection for myself. That also because I'm a person who's an introvert, so oftentimes I don't really like to disclose too much about myself. I like to take out the time, be vulnerable with myself. I see the journal
mm,
as a first of a one-on-one conversation with myself and God. So I feel like that's the one of my self-care ways, my self-care methods. My second one will be meditating. I think meditating is a very vital component in really addressing self-care because you have to realize that the mind can be also tense at times. It's just not your body. Your mind can be become full of tension because all those thoughts that's amplifying in your head, they gotta find a way to actually get out. You have to let them release those thoughts, but also try your best not to get too attached to those thoughts because some of those thought patterns are not actually you. They're
Mm,
just actually things that were actually taught from the outside world. So I think that's another thing to reflect on. And also, active and passive meditation. Like there's two types of it. So you can like if you want to do a passive meditation, just sit there and just lie down and close your eyes and just think about just breathe, do mindful breathing. Active
mm,
meditation, if you love drawing, coloring, or even just playing sports, simply just doing that is a form of meditation because you're actually putting focus into a particular subject that you love to do. And that will kind of reduce the focus. Now, also, what else would be? I think food is very important. Like I said, food. I personally don't like to eat meat. I just try to consume vegetables and fruit and drink a lot of water. You gotta stay hydrated
mm.
because your body, that's the number one thing. Keep being hydrated. Because I like trying herbal teas and stuff like that. And also, I would also say that I ain't gonna lie to you. Another way that I do self care is like buying personal care products. I ain't gonna lie to you. I do like personal care products. I don't know. Personal care products just make me feel special in some ways because I like smelling good. I like lotions, creams, and also cologne and stuff like that. So anything that's gonna help me smell good, I'll be good with that. Cause like I said, vanilla is one of my favorite scents, and that it does keep me calm. So anything with vanilla, I'm happy.
Mm.
So it keeps me real calm. And also spend time out in nature. Now I know everybody don't like nature, and that's cool. That's completely fine with me. But I do like being around water and like around trees and animals. I like that.
Mm.
And also, there's a whole lot of things. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I am a bit of a hermit, so I don't really like being around people. So I think that I need time to myself because I don't like being around a lot of people. I need time to myself. So that's what my self care thing regimen is.
See, you speaking words to I'm telling you, I'm going to get this. I was about to say vibrator. Lord Jesus, that's not what we're doing today, Lord. That's not what we're doing. That tambourine. You know what? I'm going to get a tambourine shaped like a vibrator.
Mhm. Well,
Well, a
actually,
dildo.
no. I wanted to say this. I hate to disturb body. So there was a therapist that actually suggested vibrators. You can use things like that to reduce anxiety.
The Soliloquy podcast focuses on the variability of sexual expression. When it comes to sexual expression, we often depend on pornography to illustrate how one must perform sexually. For those who have not learned this by now, the stuff you see in porn is not real. Pornography provides a singular perspective of sexual expression that is not often the reality we see during our own sexual encounters. The Soliloquy podcast is a conversation that takes you outside of the compressed box of what many know about sex. Some of the topics we discuss includes kinks, condom usage, status disclosure, and past sexual experiences. The Soliloquy podcast steps out on sexual norms and recognizes that the norm is not the only normal. Subscribe today and join the conversation.
Vibrators, you can use things like that to reduce anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you have a remote control. So I personally have tried it myself and I loved it.
Ooh, yes. See, another part of self-care. Like,
Mhm.
I love that you mentioned, being out in nature and even because that's one of the things that I do for self-care. Like, I go to pretty much the river, watch some water go, or just take a walk outside. That's something that helps me stay centered. I enjoy when I'm practicing my self-care, I might even do some drawings. I might write. I might work in my journal. Oh, speaking of journals, shameless plug moment. The sexual exploration journal. By this point, when this episode release is out, you can find it on
Ooh.
Slater's Playhouse. Um, and the links will be in the show notes. Everything's in the show notes, people. But yeah, if that's something that you may want to look into, definitely get one. And it's also in a very equitable way. So if you don't have the funds to like pay for like $25 for like the hardback, there's a paperback, and if the paperback is too expensive, there's a digital copy that you can just get for $5, print it out at home, and still enjoy the journal. So look, I'm thinking about everybody. But outside of that, like other things that I do for like self-care, I like in the morning time when I wake up, because I already know I don't want to talk to people, see people. I just lay in bed for a little while and probably breathe some, probably close my eyes back, or just stay in bed and look at the sky or something, like well, the ceiling. Like that helps me stay centered in the morning. And I love that you mentioned not wanting to be around people, because look, people got way too many different energies, and I don't be wanting to be around that all the time. I love the extroverts who can do that. I'm an introvert. I cannot. I cannot. I love my me time. I love my space to myself. I love not having to give my all to anything, any person, anything like that. I love that I can put my energy back into myself. That helps me sustain my mental health. But like having multiple things to do for self-care is wonderful. I know some people may just have one thing, and that's perfectly fine. Like if meditation is your one and only um, self-care thing, go for it. Enjoy your meditation. Love it for you. Another part of my self-care is listening to music. Like if I have like the Friday off and I kind of want to get a little bit of tipsy, and I got my homegirl Stella with me and her best friend Taylor, and we just mixing some shit and drinking and shit, I'm listening to music and vibing out and having a good little buzz. Sometimes I don't need those two to be with me. I'll just, listen to music and just vibe and chill. That helps me stay centered. Other things is like what? Playing video games. It's a lot to self-care, but you have to find the thing that is best for you. Like one of the things I had to tell one of my best friends from high school is like sometimes self-care looks toxic, and I mean toxic to other people. Like if you because self-care in a sense sometimes have to have some sort of pleasure. If that means once a month you're going to be out here binging Netflix for a full 72 hours, do that. If that
Mm-hmm.
keeps you energized and prepared for the next month, do what you need to do. That is your time for yourself. That is your time to recuperate. That is your time to rebuild yourself. From somebody else, they might think, oh, how can you be in the house for 72 hours watching Netflix? That is unhealthy. That is this, that, and the third. Mind your fucking business, because this is helping me stay centered. This is helping me stay sane. This is helping me, you know, have the energy to make it through another month. So
Right.
do whatever helps you feel good. And to find that, take the time to understand what makes you feel good. And please do not make sex a part of like your main source of self-care. I say that because as a society, we are extremely hypersexualized, are just hypersexual. And there are some people who only use sex to uh like cope with whatever emotional issues they're going on, because they don't want to deal with their emotions, help them with stress, help them with so many facets of their lives. Sometimes you can use sex for like self-care, but don't let that be your only source of self-care. Find other fun activities to do. Find other things that provide you with pleasure. If you don't have anything at this point, explore. Find something. Go on TikTok and look up different things that you can do, whatever the case is. Like one of the things I'm going into like to start learning is doing 3D modeling, like with clay molds, because I like 3D modeling. So like find something new, people.
Mhm.
Another thing that we talked about in the intake meeting was emotional manipulation, and how that takes place within like either a relationship or even like a romantic relationship in workplaces and stuff like that. Be it somebody holding resources over your head, finances. So what is your stance, or what is your feelings about emotional manipulation within a relationship?
Emotional manipulation, I would say, is one of the epicenters of downfall of many relationships itself. And I'm just saying, like, it don't even have to be with just one party. It can be both parties.
Mm,
Because from my standpoint is, and just from personal experience, some people use emotional manipulation to play that victim mentality.
mm,
Some people are the perpetuators and they utilize that opportunity just to overpower that person.
mm,
As a person, I'm speaking from both standpoints because I feel like in some ways I have perpetuated emotional manipulation myself, and that was just a defense mechanism to prevent from anyone trying to harm me in the past.
mm,
And also, I would say another way was when I was also the victim. I would often use emotional manipulation as a way to really kind of empower myself. But what from I feel with emotional manipulation within itself, I just feel like it's one of those things you have to learn how to channel in a very effective manner. And what I mean by that is you can find ways, healthy coping mechanisms to actually replace those negative tendencies.
mm,
If you want to try to get positive things out of certain situations, you're gonna have to make sure you do it in a way that's not gonna cause any harm to yourself or to the other person.
mm,
I feel like in many ways we do manipulate. We manipulate the system. We manipulate people just get what we want. But there is a strategy behind how we're supposed to do it. If you do it in a manner that is very beneficial on both parties, so there nobody won't get hurt, I don't see where it's toxic.
mhm,
So I try to look at it from it's really, how do I say it? It's a double edged sword.
mm.
You just have to be careful on how you basically practice it.
See, I get you there, because it's like the thing that came to my mind. This was more in relation to like sex. Like
Hmm.
whenever like let's say if I'm not into a certain thing, if someone were to try to coerce me into wanting to be into that, even though I've said multiple times it's just not for me,
Right.
then is like that is more of that negative and more toxic side of that manipulation. But let's say if I'm having a conversation with somebody and we just list out everything that we're all into, and there's one thing that's on there that I'm not into, and there's one thing that I'm into that they're not into, just having that mutual agreement. Okay, cool. You're not into that, then I'm still comfortable with engaging in this sexual encounter, but just know that this thing that you're looking for, I'm not comfortable with. Is that are you still interested in meeting up at that point? And it's not necessarily manipulation at that point. It's like coming to a common ground on
Right.
where you can go with this. Or if like, oh, my partner loves it when I bring them gifts, and oftentimes when I do that, they show their appreciation by giving me time to myself, or taking me out on a date, or even having sex. So let me do this so that I can get this. And it's not necessarily you're taking advantage of them. You're just giving them that gift because one, I'm going to assume they're doing that out of love. But you also get that additional benefit of what they usually do after you provide them with that gift. And I think that will be an additional way of looking at how you can manipulate without it being toxic or hurting a
Hmm.
person.
Right. That is very accurate. You're very right about that.
Like another thing, well, this is not necessarily with this is still within manipulation. I kind of glossed over it earlier, but like having the financial means or having control of the finances, and how some people use that, or even resources use that as a way to control others, meaning I'm the breadwinner of the house, so you do as I say, or I'm the one that cooks, cleans, and all this other stuff, regardless of who's paying for the food or whatever. If you don't act right, you're gonna go hungry, that kind of thing.
Right.
What is your stance on financial manipulation, or that that portraying or that existing within a relationship?
I'm gonna be honest with you. So with that whole entire experience, I was living in a household that was basically like that.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, my I know my mom for a fact had definitely endured that, and that's one of the worst situations that you can ever be in because, in a sense, you are disempowered from your own level of independence.
Mm,
And so I do feel like that is toxic in many ways. And this is where I would say this is how I have tried to see it from both perspectives
mm-hmm.
because I feel like during those times of struggles, I feel like there is a way that you can somewhat manipulate people into trying to convince them and what they're doing is wrong.
Mm,
That's why I have a very dualistic view on manipulation because you can use that form as a way to turn it around and reverse it.
mm,
So, with that being said, I do feel like financial manipulation is one of the worst things that can ever occur, but I definitely don't think you should let that disempower you. Let that empower you and motivate you to become more self reliant because that is one of the ways that I look at it. But for anybody who's going to that personally, I just hope that they can find their faith, have faith within themselves to like just know that you are worth it and you don't have to deal with other people's mess. Because
mm,
at the end of the day, God put you on this earth. And just because you're maybe born to certain people or you're around certain people, that does not mean they can dictate what you're going to be, what's your final destination.
mm.
So with that being said, do what you have to do to get out of that situation. Trust and believe me, when there's a will and there's a way, I always live by that motto. That's one of my mottos.
Amen, amen, amen. Where the fuck is the tambourine? Where is the tambourine? Okay. But like when you were talking about, have someone, having that power over you to like strip you of those resources, I started to think of like political things. And I know this is not a political podcast, people. I know, I know. But I was thinking about that. And like even when it comes to like how gas prices was higher and how food prices is going higher, and then at the same time we have an abundance of like food being produced throughout this country and whatnot. Yet we have so many people that are hungry or poor, broke, financially insecure, a lot of things, just don't have the money to make ends meet. And it's just like when I think about how many of us live in situations where we do have to depend on like governmental resources or even family or depend on jobs just to make sure that we can like have food on the table. It just it makes things feel so restrictive. It makes
Right.
things feel so unsafe that I do have to survive every single moment, every single day. Every time I breathe, it's a breath of survival in a sense. And I hate that for a lot of us. And like you were talking about with individual situations, for people who might be in like an abusive relationship, how they feel as though if they were to leave that situation, everything is going to be gone.
Right.
Their livelihood, if there's children, their children might be the thing that's going to be the thing that they lose, or just even their sense of self and normalcy, because the unknown is one of the scariest things that we all know about, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. We just hope it's something positive. We just hope it's a better day, but we don't know that for a fact. So some people really are afraid of tomorrow. Some people are afraid of the next 5 minutes, the next second, because we don't ever know exactly what the future is going to hold. We don't even
Mhm.
know what today is going to hold, because anything can happen at any given second. Of course, not to alert or like make anyone like, oh my God. But it's just the reality. Many of us do fear that unknown aspect of life.
Right.
But sometimes it is definitely worth it to step out and just be willing to fend for yourself in a sense, to figure out what that unknown is, to embrace tomorrow as though it's going to be good and know it's going to be good. Like every night I go to sleep, even though people say tomorrow's not promised, I go to sleep with the idea that I will be waking up in the next morning. because
Right.
I want to wake up the next morning. If it doesn't happen, oh well. But the goal is of me going to sleep is that I will be accomplishing my goal when I wake up. So it's
Exactly.
like that's one of the things that keep me energized, that keeps me motivated, and to lessen my fear of what the unknown may be, and also having that faith in myself that I will be okay regardless. And that's even going back to that self care kind of thing. I remember I was even in a space where I said this to my therapist. Like, she was like, "Okay," because I used to be really, really, really big on self care,
Hmm.
and I was. She was like, "Okay, so do you have? Are you taking like a day to like focus on yourself?" And I literally was like, "Well, I just don't have any time for myself," and I just said that bluntly. And after that, I had to sit in that. I'm like, wow, I literally just said I don't have time for myself, but I'm making all this time for other people. That doesn't seem right.
Right.
So
And
like,
you have to. Oh, yeah.
no, what were we saying?
No, and I mean, you really have to make that point realization because when you start realizing that, that's when stuff gets real. That's when stuff start hitting the fan. So I definitely get you on that point.
Hmm. Now, um, another thing that we did talk about, because we're getting close to the end of the episode, but I do want to hit these last two topics. So we talked about the differences between generations, like the older generation and the generations that's out here in these streets today. And one of the main things that we talked about is how our grandparents weren't in therapy, and how
Mhm.
that aspect brings us in a completely different mindset than where our grandparents and ancestors were throughout their times and our time. So what are some of the differences between the older generation, or even the advantages and disadvantages of being in therapy, as it relates to relationships between the generations?
So with the advantages of having therapy, correct?
Hmm.
So I would say, in one aspect, I think one of the many reasons why there have been, me personally, I think from just observing, I think unfortunately a lot of our ancestors and our older family members of those generations were not fully equipped financially.
Hmm.
So that's why they didn't put much emphasis on it. And I think that's why they utilize different other ways to kind of help build that level of resilience. Because what I do admire from those older generations was that they were resilient because they had faith. They put a lot of emphasis on faith. And I
Hmm.
think that's what really carried them along the way as far as that. So maybe that's why they really didn't put much emphasis on therapy. That's how I see it, because that's why I noticed those patterns with certain family members.
Hmm.
But I will also say that to some degree though, I have seen where it had an inverse impact, because there are some people that feel like that is uncommon, that is something that's not should be something that people should be so willingly to talk about with a stranger.
Mm,
And what a lot of people don't generally realize is that when you're going through personal issues that's very exhausting on those levels, you have to be able to tell somebody from an unbiased perspective. Because an unbiased perspective is the best medicine that can provide you the clarity that you need. Because the more that you try to take on the devices of other people's perspective, you're gonna be relishing on those negative aspects, because you're going to be criticizing yourself. That's where that negative inner voice comes in, because you're listening to people that have not taken out that investment in themselves. There are
mhm,
some people that don't really invest in themselves to really think that therapy is worth it. Or better yet, they just don't feel like self care is worth it overall. So the best way that they usually do it is by projecting it.
mm,
But I will say the advantages of having therapy now, and I like just having it now, I would say it's just being open to getting help from the outside sources.
mm,
Because a lot of people don't realize, like, just because you have family, that does not mean they're always going to be supportive.
mm,
Even if you want to see the best, if you want to see the best in them, you may want to see the best in them, but they're always going to try to find the ways to see the worst in you. So it's up to you to find the best way to address those issues.
exactly, exactly. Like, I was thinking about like the one of the main differences that I see, because I was raised in it in some sense that you handle issues in house and don't
Mhm.
bring any outside factors to fix things. But
Exactly.
when do you get to a point where you realize working on everything in house is not fixing the real problem? Because if I live in a box and my box tears, then clearly I have to go outside of my box so I can get some tape to repair whatever the fuck happened to it because the tape is not already there. So that's essentially what a lot of people have to think about when it comes to whatever the hell is going on within their families. Like if you don't have the tools to fix the problem at home, you have to go outside the home in order to find the solution, to find the tools that you need to fix everything. And I like when it comes to like many like older generations in their relationships, and I remember seeing all these posts about, oh, my grandparents were together for 40 plus years and they never had a divorce or anything like that. And I'm like, I'm happy for them, because look, I know some older couples who've been together for like longer than that, like 50, 60 years, and they love each other, healthy relationship, and it's great and it's beautiful. And I love that for them so much. But
Hmm.
that does not necessarily mean for the other people who've been in relationships for that long that was actually a productive and loving relationship. Because when
Right.
you think about what was going on in those times, you had shotgun weddings that were going on. You had people who just settled for a partner just so that they can have somebody. You had a lot, increase in spousal abuse going on during those times. You had a lot of trauma that was going on within the families. You had systems and legal practices that literally said that a husband can rape his wife because she's his property. Like you have all these things going on that have were not really being addressed in a healthy way that contributed to many of these families being unhappy. And the difference that you see today with a lot more people being open to talking about their issues, talking about the circular traumas that's going on within their families, or just breaking generational cycles of trauma. You have a lot more people who are willing to go into a relationship with partners that they connect with the most and not out of obligation. Just because this
Right.
person is my baby daddy or my baby mama, I'm not going to enter a full on relationship with them and marry them. I'm willing to be a parent to my child, co parent with their other parent. But I also know that me and this person, we don't hit it off. We're going to be fighting every single day, and because of that, that will bring a negative impact on my child. So I don't want that. I don't want that for my child. I don't want that for us. I want them to see a happy and loving family. I want them to see happy and loving co-parenting. And you also have those people who waited to find their partner and then start the family there. Like that would be one of the main differences from the previous generation to this generation, solely because we talk about mental health a lot more. Because many people were not recognizing the traumas that they were in prior to there being a lot more shows that literally pointed out, oh, this family's dysfunctions is this, that, and the third. All these people with these baby mamas are baby daddies. DNA test this, DNA test that. Mari, what's the other one?
Mhm. The
Jerry
paternity court.
Jerry, whatever his name is. Paternity Court.
Mhm.
Paternity Court. Oh my God. That show is the best. Like
Right.
my brother, I showed it to him once and he was like, oh, this stuff is fake. This stuff is phony. I was like, you say that, but you haven't seen the episode. He saw one episode. He was like, yeah, I still think this is fake. By the third episode, yeah, these people really are going through some things. I was like,
Hmm.
see, that's what happens when you go to the paternity court. She's trying to heal, not do this for a show. Yes,
Right.
there's some crazy stuff that be going on to make it a good show, but she's really trying to fix families and doesn't even
Exactly.
encourage people to be like, oh, y'all need to be married. Y'all need to do this. No, y'all make decisions that's right for y'all to make sure that y'all can parent this child or find the, person to help parent this child so that they're surrounded by love. Um,
Right.
And even that show makes a drastic difference to in how people parent compared to older generations, because you can look at that as a resource of, oh, if I were to do this, this is how my child will feel as an adult. I see this other guy on here who's talking about how he was raised without a father, and I'm feeling those feelings too. Or I see this person, this woman saying how she was out here in these streets enjoying herself, having fun, hooking up with multiple people, and then had entered into this relationship with somebody. She backtracked with some one old partner, and now they're here having this drama, and there's insecurity, doubt. I can see how that can impact my future family if need be, if that were to happen. Like shows like that give is making a difference in terms of how younger generations, those who are still building, or even I would say it's even impacting some of the older generation too, based off of some of the conversations of these older people finally meeting children that they didn't know about, and it's been 50 years.
Right. I ain't
So
never like yeah.
yeah, like there's so much difference between the generations, and I'll have to say a vast improvement in a lot of spaces, a lot of families, is because a lot more people are being open and willing to go to therapy.
Hmm.
um, if you're not at that point right now, that's perfectly fine. Just know therapy works.
Right.
Now, before we close out the episode and go into the Never Have I Ever segment, I did want to talk about the movie Acrimony, because that is a great film in terms of highlighting relationships, mental health. I will say over exaggerate some of the mental health aspects somewhat, but it's Tyler Perry. He doesn't do anything the way it needs to be done half the time. But he does make some good films every now and again. Whatever, it's Tyler. But what are your views on Acrimony?
I definitely think acrimony was a very much emphasized the need of being able to respect, have more self-respect for yourself. Never put yourself below someone who you never know that would change on you.
Mm,
I do feel like that because it was when I saw the movie, I had seen it twice. And it was both times, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was hard for me to watch because seeing that particular character and all of what she invested in that person on an emotional level, on a physical level, on all levels, I think it was just so draining to see a person who was losing themselves to someone who didn't respect or value them. And I do feel like in some ways it was to the point where I think it was just a reflection of what's going on within my reality.
mm,
So I think in some ways it was very telling on how sometimes you have to take some form of accountability because I do see her perspective. I do feel bad that she went through what she went through.
mhm,
But I also see it's from another view. Sometimes you have to take your form of empowerment back and realize some people are not worth it. Take your power back because at the end of the day, that husband that she had, the ex-husband that she had, needed her more than she needed him.
mm,
And that's one of the things people have to realize. It's easier said than done, but once you realize that, I think you will become more able to take over the world just through that.
mhm.
But
And
it was just,
like, I love what you just said there. Like, I hate that she was painted as the villain in that film, and
mhm,
the reason why is because, like, yeah, he got the money. He ended up, being successful off of his idea. Of course, she like divorced him and whatnot, and this now everything wants to happen good for him, and
right,
then he finds this other woman, and then it's just like, girl, I don't know you. Like, yeah, I got money now. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you any of the money that I got from the success that you didn't help me get. You didn't believe in me and all this other stuff. But I'm like, she faltered at one point. She
mhm,
was at her breaking point,
right.
and now she's being punished for having to be at the breaking point when you are the cause and source of that. Like,
It's like,
this is a woman who funded your dream, it while working full time, even though he had, did his things every now and again, but he was mostly focusing on getting his work out there, finally to get seen and have value to like what his projects essentially. But she was there supporting him financially, emotionally, sexually, all of these things. She was there in his corner. And then at one point, when she's just like, I need you to step up and do something. Now she becomes the villain. Now that
Mhm.
he has the funds, the money, and the new bay, she's automatically the villain because he doesn't owe her a thing because he didn't get that money while she was in the marriage with him. It doesn't matter. What did she invest in him? She invested 20 plus years in this man, in his
Mhm.
dream. And yeah, she probably didn't see a dime, but at the end of the day, where would he be if it wasn't for her? If if she removed herself from the situation and left him a lot sooner, would he have been able to survive? She brought them into that new home that they had outside of the trailer that they were staying in. I think it was a trailer. She did that for them. She
Right.
built the foundations of their relationship. But now that he gets the money, after the divorce, she's not entitled to anything. That to me personally doesn't seem fair because of all of the emotional things in the buildup she put into him already.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. That's why I really find it hard to look at that movie
Mm-hmm.
because it really made me feel some type of way. Because it really is putting on this narrative where this is where I have a problem where they always put people, especially black people, the marginalized population like black people, in crazy situations like this because they're demonizing us in ways that make us bitter and anger and
Mm-hmm.
angry. And that's one of the reasons why I very much like watching that. In some ways, I did respect that movie into to some extent because it was just giving out this emphasizing how sometimes it's not always best to be so invested in someone who does not have your main interest.
Mm-hmm.
Because once again, you can be so clouded in judgment that you don't even know what's good for yourself.
Mm.
So that's why I say, and I really hate that. And I definitely hated how she basically died because of her own poison. And that
Mm-hmm.
basically her own poison was anger and bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, it was instigated by him. So had he maybe just become more respectful and appreciated her more, than this wouldn't have happened.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, I would like to think that if I were in a similar situation, I would just like, you know what? I left that. I'm glad that you flourished. Whatever.
Hmm.
Fuck it all. I'm good. But I also feel as though on an emotional level, not to say I would be bitter, but I would
Hmm.
be feeling similar to how she was feeling because it's
Hmm.
like I invested in you. Like like you over here finding investment capital, cool, that's great. This
Right.
is strangers who don't even fucking know you, and giving you money off of your idea. That's beautiful, that's great, but I invested in you on so many fucking levels that money cannot even buy. Like,
And oh
mhm,
yeah, I know. And I would just say, honestly speaking, that she was just like, how can I say it? She was the water that gave that seed life. Honestly speaking, so
mm,
without water, you would never be able to grow and flourish the way he did in the beginning, so to speak.
mhm.
So that's why I say, really, you can't. He really couldn't have flourished without her.
Hmm. And I was listening to something. I don't know if it was a podcast or it was on the radio, and they were just like they feel nothing for her, Taraji's character, because they said that she didn't believe in his dream, and I'm like, when was she not believing in his dream? Like just because this one random chick who he met randomly on his route gave him a tip that helped him flourish. Like, I'm sorry, again, this random chick she was here in the fourth quarter when we won the
Right.
game. She was not here playing on that starting line. She was not there. She was not on these fucking courts. She was on the bench somewhere. She wasn't even on the bench. She was out in the train. She was in the fucking parking lot. and pulled up. It's too many people got injured, and we just like, look, you get on the court, and she came on the court, and then we won. But
Right.
our star player is the person that just got injured. She replaced the star player, and we're supposed to act like, oh, well, she's the new person off the fucking bench or out in the audience is our MVP. That doesn't sound right to
No,
me.
never. That and you're right about that.
Like, it's so much to that, and the like the mental toll that has to weigh on a person, that regardless of how much time you invested in the person, and for the amount of money that he gained, what would it have hurt him to give her something of that?
Exactly. I
Like,
agree.
like anybody who thinks differently, think about that. How would that have hurt him to have gave her anything? And that she was asking to be valued for her time of
Mhm.
investing in him. And he essentially was like, girl, you did nothing for me. How is that really fair? Just because one person, again, in the fourth quarter was like, we can win this game. Girl, we were already 8 points up. It's 30 seconds left. They not catching the fuck back up. They're not. This
Mhm.
I'm using basketball, y'all, because I know if this is football, it gets real in situations like that. But we won the game. Like, we're doing this for show. Like, you're just on the court, fam. You're just on the court. Stop it.
Exactly.
Whew, okay, let me calm myself down. And you ready for a little bit of Never Have I Ever?
Oh yes.
So I definitely do need to go back and rewatch the film. It has been like months, probably years since I've seen it. So some of that might not be accurate. This is just what I remember from the movie. But if y'all have any comments, audience, feel free to share. Like, I want to know your perspective. I welcome it all. We can even do a viewing party. Who knows? And we could talk about it after
Mhm.
that. Like, that would be great. Okay, so never have I ever eavesdropped on someone else having sex.
Oh no. Oh no. I feel weird when that. Never.
I have.
Oh.
And it was one of those situations, being at hotels.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, knock, 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 knock. Oh, is this a rhythm that I'm hearing? Okay, rhythm. Ear. Is that Are they having sex over there? Oh, they are having sex. Yeah. You better fuck. Yes. One of those kind of situations. Not saying I was
Right.
like all up in it and jacking off and shit. No, I was just like,
No. Yeah.
I need confirmation. Like, is we fucking over here or no? I hope so.
Right.
I love it when people are fucking. Yes. But yeah, I would say that's the only time I've eavesdropped. Like, if I'm like at a hotel, if I'm at somebody's home, I'm not trying to. No, no,
Mm-mm.
because that means I'm at like a friend or family member's house. I don't care what the fuck is going on behind those doors. I don't want to be in there.
Mm-mm.
Y'all got that.
Mm-mm.
um, let's go with a sex question next.
Okay.
Have you ever had completely silent sex? What was that like?
Silent sex.
Hmm.
Oh. I think that was only one.
And how was it?
It was okay. It wasn't bad. It was very silent though. I just basically I ain't gonna lie to you. So I think I was just it was a quickie situation. It happened in the morning time, and basically it was just a situation where I was just up in the air, two up in the air, and it just guy just did what he had to do, and it was just that's it.
That doesn't sound pleasing.
That yeah, it really wasn't. I mean, I think he moaned a little, but I just it was very quiet. That's all I can say.
I've had silent sex. Most of actually I have a good number of experiences with silent sex.
Oh damn.
Um and it's because I don't moan very often.
Mm-hmm.
And well, okay, I take that back. Me being silent, multiple instances. I haven't had too many where like both of us are silent. I did have that. It was like I say once or twice where both parties are like silent. I ain't necessarily feeling kind of way because me regularly being silent during sex and still receiving pleasure, and it's
Right.
pleasurable. But it was enjoyable for the both of us. Um, I've had experiences where was not any moaning, but got to be quiet situation. So I've definitely had some of those. But yeah, I say that would be my encounters there. Would you like another question?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
All right. So, do you scheme up sexy role plays? Do you have a character or alter ego you like to bring into the boudoir for special occasions?
Unfortunately, I haven't met anyone to actually even consider that, honestly speaking.
What? Well,
Yeah.
well, do you fantasize of doing something like that?
Oh yes, I have plenty of times on plenty of occasions I have. It's just that it's so hard seeing people actually willing to do that because some people they like I said, unfortunately I did not have most people that I have encountered, they really didn't put much emphasis on it. They were just a hit it and quit it situation, unfortunately.
I get that. I get that.
Right.
I've had my fantasies of doing like sexy role plays. I've also had fantasies of putting on like a full on scene, like script and everything. Like we're here to act. Like what the fuck are you doing if you're not here for the fucking show? Like
Right.
I need you to come in character. Like I would be that one person who will be a sexy chubby ass fine as fuck elf fucking an ogre. Like, let's do this, bitch. Like, what the fuck is going on? like,
And see, that's something that would be very appealing. I would actually love that. And see, some people, dang, ugh,
like
see,
part of the reason why I'm learning how to do body painting is so that I can be a lot better with doing like cosplay related things. So I
mhm,
can do like a lot of sexual fantasy shit.
right, dang.
It's sad that a lot of my creativity is going towards sex, but it's okay.
Well, hey, a lot of people don't realize that sexual energy is actually creative energy. So I mean,
Hey
it
man.
goes so goes hand in hand. So you good.
You're right. You're right. But on the other hand, like what you were talking about earlier, like finding
Mm-hmm.
people who are willing and comfortable to doing something like that is hard because there's so many people who are only interested in the hit and quit situation, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like I need more people to think like a few steps ahead because it's
Right,
like these apps are great, they're fun to use to find somebody to hook up with, but what's the purpose of being on an app to find a new person every single day or every single weekend? Like, unless you're in Atlanta, it's possible, but you're going to get to a point where you run out of people. There's
right.
also a lot of fucking flakes and scammers in Atlanta. So if you're planning on going to Atlanta to hoe, be warned. There's a bunch of flakes and there's a bunch of scammers. I'm going to leave it at that.
Right.
but like and fake profiles, but like why constantly try to find new when you can have regular encounters with somebody and know that it's only going to be sexual, like it's
Mhm.
not going to be romantic, it's just going to be us playing together, and like let that be a thing. Like
Right.
there's someone here who I've hit up before, and I was like, I told them my intentions. I was like, I'm looking for someone to engage with sex on a regular basis, and he was like, yeah. He even mentioned that. Well, he was like, well, I'm a smoker. Is that fine? I'm like, I don't care what you do. And he smokes Black and Miles, and I was like, oh, I love the smell of Black and Miles, so we're good. So like we hooked up, and then I'm thinking, okay, he's on the talking about, yeah, I'm free most weekends, so if you want to hook up more than once that during the weekend, we can. So I'm like, okay, you're showing that your intentions are matching my intentions. So attempt to do that. We hooked up once. The like a couple days passed. I'm like, hey, you trying to hook up again? No response. And I'm like, mofo, just say no if you're not. Like, I'm not in
Right.
love with you. And then a couple weeks passed, and I guess they created a whole new profile or some shit. We ended up chatting again, and I'm like, we're like, I got your number. Like, you could have just text me to hook up, and we ended up hooking up again. And it's like do I have to wait until every time you create a new profile for you to actually feel like cooking up again as though you're a whole new person? Like, mofo, nigga, I know who the fuck you are. Like, you can text me if you want to hook up. We have each other's number. Like, that stuff does not make sense to me. Like, I even had an issue with that with my actual regular at one point. Like, fam, we're not in a romantic relationship. This is like, strictly sexual. Like, let it be.
Right.
Like
Oh
it's
God.
like people make things harder than they need to be for some weird reason.
Hmm.
And I'm like, if you want to be out here trying to find something new all the time, when are you going to get to that point where you run out of new?
Exactly.
Like, there's only a select few queer people on this planet. And
Hmm.
then, depending on what city you're in, again, we're not in Atlanta, but depending on what city you're in, you have a defined number of a limited number. That's a better word. A limited number of people that you can engage with. So if you find somebody sexually attractive and you want to hook up with them, just do it. Like, if you want to build on that and make it romantic, then just have that conversation. Like, it's not that hard. We don't have to make these situations harder than they actually are.
Hmm.
Like, people weird. People are weird.
Oh, you're right. No, you ain't never lied about that. People do have some weird ways of doing things, and I think that's why I've been kind of just so detached lately, especially from social media apps. I just don't even engage with it. I don't even deal with it.
Exactly. And I think, well, I found me a second regular, and I'm happy about that.
Oh, congratulations. I'm happy to hear
Yes,
that.
yes. And this is a gamer. So now I have somebody strictly for sex, and
Oh,
now I have someone for gaming and sex.
I am so mad at you. Oh my God, I'm low key mad because I always wanted to deal with a gamer. Oh, dang, I'm happy for you.
Well, well,
Hmm.
we're in this we're not too far away from each other.
Right.
So, like, look, I don't mind sharing info. So if you want to, find out y'all want to do a little thing every now and again, play some, look, we group play, y'all, group play. Look, it said on the podcast. Let me stop.
Oh my goodness. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you,
Dang.
thank you. But like, even finding this person was a lot harder than it needed to be because we actually
Right.
communicated months ago, right?
Oh.
And we didn't meet up. He just stopped responding and whatnot. And there was like, I think it was last weekend. I was very horny. And I was like, let me revisit this conversation. And it left off, well, I didn't know who the person was. It was kind of like a new profile. I was like, oh, we chatted before. Okay. And the last thing I asked him was like a broad question of like
Mhm.
what his interests are. And I was like, let's just start a whole new conversation. And from that conversation, learned that he likes the same games I like. We both have the same systems. And I'm like, well, what's up? Because um it's weird. He was like, he wanted to meet up, and I was like, well, I thought he was talking about just to play video games or some
All
shit like
right.
that. And I'm like, well, the way my mood is set up, I'm not looking to play video games. I'm here for sex, mofo, like whatever. And
Right.
then hit me with that, but why can't we just do both? And I was like, motherfucker, not you out here doing that.
Right. Multitasking at times. I love that.
Like, did you not know this is like a thing for me? Like, you're doing something. So that's how that started. But like, again, people do not have to make things harder than they need to
Right.
be. Oh God. Okay. I've been on this episode long enough, and this episode is probably longer than it needs to be too. Fortis, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate
Thank
you
you as well.
so very much. Do you have any last words for the audience?
Audience still continue to shine through even through the darkest times. Remember that y'all still are very vital to this earth. So all I gotta do is focus on yourself. Don't think about sex all the time. It ain't always about sex.
Mm,
Just make yourself the most important thing on this earth because that's what God made intended you to be. Just you express your very essence.
yes. Tamarine, 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 tamarine. Vibrator tambourine. There we go. Yes. Y'all heard the tambourine, right? Y'all heard it? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. That was a word. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes. Yes. Y'all are valued, y'all are loved. If y'all do need any resources in terms of like therapy, look in the show notes. You've heard the little disclaimer at the beginning of the episode. They're available. The psychological resources are in the show notes for anyone who ever needs them. They will always be there for you. On that note, thank you all so much for listening to the Holiloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. Just in case no one else told you this today, you are beautiful, you are worthy of happiness and joy, you are enough and then some. You may not live up to the expectations of others, but that is okay. You are only required to walk in your own shoes. May each day you live lead you towards abundance. With that said, love you all and see you next episode.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Holiloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. You can subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting app and find us on the web at www.holiloquy.com. That's www.heauxliloquy.com. Share the podcast with your friends and join the conversation.